Greetings and salutations. We are back with some more One Talent Challenge Paladin in Act 3. Hey, he outlasted the Barbarian. I don't know if that means it's a good thing or a bad thing, but you know, Barbarian kind of bit the big one on Duriel. Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, what can you do? But we're back, which means, well, everybody knows what it means. I'm going to get somewhat philosophical and just kind of chill and play a paladin on hardcore. And I thought about doing a Path of Exile video to try to get prepared for Path of Exile too, but I don't know when that's going to be out yet. So I was like, I don't know. The difference between, I have to say, Path and this is Path of Exile. Path of Exile seems a lot more daunting when you look at it almost within a vacuum. You know what I mean? And people say, well, "What do you mean within a vacuum?" Well, okay, let's take a step back. You take a look at the Path of Exile tree, right? And how big the passive tree is. And everybody just kind of gets a little off put by it because it's so massive and kind of detailed. And so people just kind of are like, well, yeah, it's hard to understand. It's hard to navigate. And for the most part, that's true. 100% true. However, there is that small. I can't even say. I don't even want to call it a subsection. There's that small group of people who take a look at the Path of Exile, passive skill tree, and I'm in this group of people, and see an open-ended, almost like, um, almost like a blank canvas. You could do anything, be anything, create anything. It's almost like the beginning of a Bob Ross episode. You know what I mean? Because you could put anything on that canvas. You could put a mighty mountain in there, and then you see where I'm going with this. Put a big old tree and give that tree a friend, so on and so forth. Of course, people are going to sit there and be like, what is he talking about? How is Path of Exile anything like Bob Ross? Well, realistically speaking, it's nothing like Bob Ross. But, creatively speaking, you can do anything with your character. If you wanted to make a witch or a scion or something and then make them not cast spells but instead run up and smash things with a big two-handed mallet, you could do that. And having that flexibility in a game is a good thing because it allows players to just kind of disconnect from preordained roles. Like with the paladin, you can't put, say, whirlwind on a paladin. You might be able to get something that has whirlwind charges, but you can't really put whirlwind itself on a paladin unless you're playing like open battle net or single player, and then you can, you know, get a character that has whirlwind. But the point remains is there's not that open-ended feel in Diablo 2 like there is in Path. And so those passive skill trees only enhance your character's, stats like energy shield, regeneration, minion life, so on and so forth. Minion damage. One of them makes you completely immune to chaos damage, but you have one life. So there is a detriment to it. However, it's just interesting because you can play the game any way you want to. And having that ability to play the game the way you want to is kind of a lost art these days. Because there was a lot of games that are just like, nope, we're gonna it's strict and rigid. You can only play it this way. and they'll give you like 2 to 3 builds you can do within the realms of possibility, but that's it. And it's like, why not give the players the freedom to do what they want? And I think that's where Path nails it, and Diablo just kind of drops the ball. As weird as that sounds, I mean, considering Diablo almost sired the whole genre. If you really want to get into the nitty gritty, Dungeons and Dragons sired the whole genre, and then when it hit the digital space, Diablo mainstreamed it. You know what I mean? They made it like a very blatant thing, and that kind of brought it to the forefront, really. Because I never would have played Dungeons and Dragons. I still won't. Um, my reasoning for not playing Dungeons and Dragons is basically because my rolls are, well, abysmal. Truthfully, I mean, some of the worst you'll ever see. So, knowing that everything has to be role based in Dungeons and Dragons, I kind of was like, nope. Mm-mm. Now, in this, you don't get to see the rolls because it happens in the code in the background. Same way with Path of Exile. And I still might do some Path of Exile content because it's a big game and a lot of people love it. I was thinking about doing Helldivers content too, mostly because I love Helldivers. Like Helldivers 2, despite the whole Sony embargo and despite the whole thing that they had going on, I have to sit there and say the game was still supremely fun. And it was. I mean, it probably still is. I haven't played it in a while, so. But the music was incredible. But I digress. We're kind of getting off topic. So I was thinking about doing some Path of Exile content. I also thought about doing some Satisfactory content, but it yeah. I I got about 7 minutes into a Satisfactory video and I thought, no, this ain't it. And I deleted the video. Okay. And it's like, well, then why'd you go back to your old standby of Diablo 2? Well, it's not because I went back to the standby. It's because I thought I do need to play the One Talent Challenge again, and I do need to try to do some Path of Exile. So I thought, talk about Path of Exile while playing Diablo, and maybe I'll get some commentary back from viewers saying, yeah, you know what, I could go for some Path of Exile watching. Now, it is Path of Exile 1, not 2, so. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it works out. If it works out, it might not. Who knows? And I tell you, lately it's been interesting. So I had that flu. My mother ended up getting the same flu. Now that both of us are over it, except for a minor cough every once and again, it's weird because now my sister hit a deer with her car, right? And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, geez, really? Well, I mean, it happens. It happens. It's one of those things. But it's almost like everything is happening right now, all at the same time. Two illnesses. She hits the deer with her car. It's almost like everything is just culminating into one area. That's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But it's been a wild past week and a half, honestly. Uh, uh, now why has it been a wild past week and a half? Aside from me wanting to decide to do different content and so on and so forth. Um, and here's here's where it's going to go off into the weeds a little bit. So be prepared. The NFL games this past weekend. Now, I do watch some sports on television. Not a whole lot. Very rarely will I watch, much of anything. But something I've noticed about the NFL over many, many years, and it's going to make a rather, I'm going to point this out. There is the belief that the NFL is rigged and that it is scripted and that it is entertainment purposes only sort of thing. And I firmly believe this because it's the only thing that makes sense, right? Think about it. Now, it's more than just you can't really tell if it's rigged or anything like that. No, 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 no. It's there's enough evidence there to show it. So, for example, the CEO and the COO, the Chief Operations Officer, are the only two people that know where, when, why, and how everything's going to be done. Okay? All of the referees all work at the behest of the CEO above the COO. So the Chief Operations Officer is the first one to make the call on anything the referees do in the NFL. Beyond that, it goes to the CEO. Now, the CEO is good friends with Robert Kraft. But here's the thing. This current CEO, Roger Goodell, was... How do I want to put this? When they went to vote him in as CEO, which is what they do, they vote him in. When they went to vote him in as CEO, three owners abstained. I don't know the third owner's name, but I do know the first two. No, not they didn't abstain, I should say. Al Davis of the Oakland Raiders said no. Ralph Wilson of the Buffalo Bills said no. And I don't know who owned the Washington Redskins at the time. And I don't know who owns them now. Now, people would say, oh, no, you can't call them the Washington Redskins. All right, couple things. First, I am part Native American. My father looked like he walked off the reservation. So, I know that I'm part of the Northeastern tribes. But I don't know how much or what tribe. That I do know. Okay? Because my father legitimately looked like he was Native American completely. Like no two ways about it. He had the dark skin, dark hair. He looked just like a Native American from history books from like the first Thanksgiving. Serious. He died 4 years ago, so I can't. He didn't even know where his ancestry came from. But nevertheless, um, Redskins, and this is also very applicable to me because I tan red. When I go out and I'm in the sunlight, I don't sunburn, but when I tan, my skin turns red. Hence the name, Redskins. Now, I could be part of the Blackfeet tribe, but who knows? Anyway, um, the Blackfoot tribe chief, who the helmet was designed after, didn't have any issues with it. He said, "You know what? It's fine. Keep it. I don't care." And it made him happy. And so the Blackfoot tribe is suing the NFL to get their helmet, to get the Blackfeet uh, Redskin logo back. But let's kind of go off the rails a bit from that. Roger Goodell did not like the fact that two people voted against him becoming CEO. In fact, he's like a little child. He doesn't like it at all. He's gonna throw things, kick, scream, and get his way. Now, when he gets that, what happens? Well, in order for that to happen, he has to make a mockery out of them. The two teams that voted no. If you look, Goodell came into power in 2001. Paul Tagliabue was the CEO before that. And when Goodell came into power, the Raiders and the Buffalo Bills stopped going to the playoffs. There was this, they were all in transitional periods. Yeah, that's the same thing they say about everything. Oh, it's just a transitional period. Oh, it's just a transitional period. Crock. Giant bubbling crock. They were selectively withheld from winning through by means of um, making sure that certain players, penalties happen. Oh, on that play there was holding. On that play there was this. On that play was that. You could do it on. You could call a holding penalty on any play. Just so you know, because there's almost a hold going off at every single time. Now, people say, well, that's circumstantial. True. That's very circumstantial evidence. But let me go further. Al Davis was about out of money. He was about ready to declare bankruptcy, and Ralph Wilson bailed him out. Ralph Wilson said, I got you back, Al. We're going to stick together. And so he bailed him out. This angered Goodell even further. Now let's take a look. Al Davis dies because he was like in his 90s. And when Al Davis died, the Raiders moved from Oakland to LA. And the year they moved from Oakland to LA, or not LA, sorry, from Oakland to Las Vegas, that very same year, they went to the playoffs. They didn't make it very far, but they went to the playoffs. Very next year, they hosted the Super Bowl. That's curious. Las Vegas hosted the Super Bowl like the very next year. Got to ask yourself one question. How do you pay for those stadiums? Some of it comes out as tax money. Some of it comes out of the owner's pocket. Some of it comes out of the NFL's pocket. So how does the NFL make money on those stadiums? Ticket sales, merchandising, specifically merchandising more so than anything. So, how do you merchandise if your team doesn't win? You let them win. You let them pick up a Super Bowl victory. You let them go to the Super Bowl. Maybe not a victory, but you let them go to the Super Bowl, and you create a player, and you pump that player up, and now you can start selling jerseys. Perfect example. I called him Johnny Rizepine, Johnny Manziel, because he later became Johnny Rehab Clinic. Now, let's talk about Johnny Manziel. They nicknamed him Johnny Football. How many Manziel jerseys were sold? Hundreds. Thousands. Okay. Brady still existed, so you still had Tom Brady. They sold tons of those. But isn't it weird how the Patriots kept going to the Super Bowl and kept making playoff appearances, with Goodell being good friends with Robert Kraft, who owned the Patriots? Weird. Until Robert Kraft was found in a Miami massage parlor with some rather questionable youth, questionable women. He was found in that massage parlor. You could probably look it up. It's not private knowledge or anything. It was a wide case. All of a sudden, Tom Brady ditches The Patriots, very next season, says, nope, not doing it. So he ditches the Patriots. Goodell is still friends with Robert Kraft, but now the Patriots don't make any playoffs. Tom Brady moves to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay makes this playoffs. It's not because of Tom Brady, as much as anybody would like to say so. It's because Goodell. Because Goodell is good friends with, again, everybody that was up in that organization a while ago. But let's go one further. You now have a team that went to the playoffs and did something that no other team did. Ever notice how they have that? No other team's done this. No other team's done that. You'll notice that trend. And it's always a new NFL record because they want to wash out the history books. So they wash out the history books and they promote some players and demote others by, oh, we had a bad year. But let's continue. It gets stranger than that. Goodell wants to put the Buffalo Bills through three tragedies, so to speak. The first of three tragedies is them not being able to go to any sort of big game. Last time Buffalo went to the Super Bowl was in the 90s. Last time Buffalo started appearing in the playoffs in 2017. Now remember that date, 2017. Ralph Wilson, let's see if I can find it here. Ralph Wilson died in 2014. Okay? Now, he died in 2014. The stadium was named after him in 2015. It was called the Ralph. Okay? And it maintained being called the Ralph for 2 years. Until it became New Era Stadium in 2016. And when it became New Era Stadium in 2016, a strange thing occurred in 2017. Buffalo made the playoffs for the first time since Goodell took over. Because Ralph Wilson, the man who told him no, not he couldn't be CEO, and then bailed out Al Davis, his name is no longer up there in bright lights. There's no longer that reminder, hey, he's gone. Or, hey, his name's there. They did away with it. Now let's go one further. I had this discussion with somebody earlier today. Buffalo's getting a new stadium created. The statue of Ralph Wilson out in front of the old one, that's been there since his death, probably won't be put in the new one. It'll probably be destroyed with the old stadium. Now, here's some interesting things. With that stadium being built, most of the time when a stadium is built, somebody either makes a Super Bowl, wins a Super Bowl, or hosts the Super Bowl in order to drum up money for the team and the team owners. The Chiefs inked a brand new stadium not too long ago, 3-4 years ago, when they beat the San Francisco 49ers. They inked the stadium's, they finished the stadium's construction right at the beginning of that year. Weird how that is. They went and they won the Super Bowl. Now, other things come into play, other factors, such as disasters. The year that Katrina hit, all of a sudden the Saints magically won the Super Bowl. Well, how come? They were playing like garbage. Then all of a sudden they just decided, let's pull together for the city of New Orleans? I don't think so. You had to inject money into that stadium. Because remember, they used the Superdome in New Orleans as a shelter. So they probably had to retrofit it. Because it was probably water damaged and everything. So, all things considered, After Katrina, you had money that flowed into New Orleans, the Saints organization, through means of Super Bowl. Seems a little weird. Oh, 2001, the year he took over, out of nowhere, Tom Brady just became the quarterback and took the Patriots to the Super Bowl and won. The very year that Goodell took office. Countless rules changes were made specifically for the Patriots. I could go on. But Goodell doesn't like to do this. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, the Redskins? What do they have to do with it? The Redskins. Redskins have to suffer the humiliation of not being called the Redskins. They were proud to be called the Redskins. The Blackfoot Chief was proud to be on the helmet. This is why they took down the Redskins name and made them just the football team and then the Commanders later on. They said, wow, it was an offensive name. Not when the Blackfeet Chief said it's not offensive at all. The man that was on the helmet said, no, it's not offensive. It's great. Well, if it was so offensive to be called the Redskins, how come it's not offensive to be called the Chiefs? How come it's not offensive for them to have a giant Indian war drum and then do the chop in the stands? Why isn't that offensive? That's a little suspicious, isn't it? So you can't be called the Redskins, but you could be called the Chiefs and do the chop in the stands and beat on an Indian war drum. It's almost like somebody's playing favorites. Because somebody's playing ball with Goodell. See? Now I know what you're thinking. Well, that's still circumstantial evidence. Okay. It's awfully coincidental how that all worked out, isn't it, though? Some teams got preferential treatment and others didn't. Even the Patriots were getting preferential treatment. Let me explain. Gerard Mayo. Well, he got fired, but Gerard Mayo, when he started out this year, Gerard Mayo said in an interview that when it came to positions on his team, color matters. He didn't care who did the job the best. He was going to color mattered first. And I mean, that's pretty much an openly racist statement to make as a coach. Should just say, well, your playing ability doesn't matter, color matters. That's kind of openly racist. Not gonna lie. But Gerard Mayo was allowed to coach the entire season, even though he coached it into the dirt. He was still allowed to coach for the entire season after that remark. But John Gruden wasn't. They found emails going to and from John Gruden, back when he was part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers franchise, full of inappropriate humor regarding people of a certain ethnic background. And these were jokes coming to and from John Gruden. So John Gruden was sending these jokes on, and people were sending jokes back. But John Gruden was the only one that got in trouble. Why is that? I have a theory. During Brady's tenure with the Patriots, it is not uncommon for quarterbacks to gamble through bookies. This has happened since Broadway Joe Namath and Johnny Unitas. They used to gamble through bookies. They'd go out and they'd have a bad day and they'd throw the game and make a whole boatload of cash. Because they'd throw the game, they'd bet against their own team, and they'd go out and they'd throw the game. Right? They'd make it look good, but they'd say, oh, I overthrew the ball in the fourth quarter. Oops. So on and so forth. So, with this being the case, it got to be very interesting. During the Deflategate scandal, Tom Brady was told, well, not told, people heard that Tom Brady was shattering his phone, smashing his phone like clockwork. Now, there was probably a lot of them that didn't care. Probably Robert Kraft didn't care that he was gambling, and probably other people didn't care that he was gambling on himself or against himself, which wouldn't surprise me if that was the case or not. Doesn't matter. Gruden, however, probably had a rule about no gambling. This is why they targeted Gruden. Because Tom Brady needed a place where he could do what he did best, illegally gamble, through his bookies. And mind you, this is all my opinion. This is all my, if you want to call it conspiracy, it's all take it with a grain of salt opinion. So he was doing this knowingly, and he needed to not have Gruden breathing down his neck. So, oh wait, that's the way in. It's down and around this way, all the way out and around that way, and then into the center. I see it now. So he needed to not have Gruden breathing down his neck. So he had to get rid of Gruden before Brady really took up residence there. That being the case, you now have what you have now. And now Tom Brady has a sweet acting gig. Not really acting, but televised gig. And it just so happens that he made all of his money and everything, and now he's out of football. Now other things do take effect here. Things like certain players take a dive. And they take a dive because they don't want, because they know that if they take the dive, the team loses and it doesn't make them look bad as a player. Oh, I got injured. They get some time off, the team plays like garbage, and then they have a losing season and they get out of the playoffs. See? So you'll see a whole bunch of that happening. Or that some guy will have an injury and then, oh, he makes a miraculous recovery in a short amount of time. And then they'll be like, oh, he's just built different. No, he was never injured to begin with. The MLB does this too. This is also, again, my opinion. MLB, NBA, they all do it. Turf toe is usually the number one injury that they love to fake. And they say, oh, I've got turf toe. I can't fully extend my foot. I can't do this. I can't do that. I have to take it easy. And now the team suffers because of it. And it's always on some weird stretch of games where they're needed the most. It happened last year. Aaron Judge. Oh, I got turf toe. I got a sprained toe or whatever. And he was out for, I don't know, it was like a stretch of 7 or 8 Yankees games. And they were all divisional. And they needed it. They're like, oh, we really needed him for those games. They lost every single one of them. A couple other players got injured too. They faked injuries like that too. And it was all the same thing. It's like, oh, I jammed my thumb. And they are on the sidelines wearing this cast on their hand. But like yet, 2 weeks later, they're back out and they're spry again and they're playing like you wouldn't believe. It's to make a comeback story, you see, because they're trying to sell you on a story. Again, this is just my opinion. Take it for what you will. Take it for a grain of salt if you wish. But it just seems a little suspicious that these people go out there and get injured randomly, and then all of a sudden they bounce back like you wouldn't believe, and it's like, but do you? I mean, there have been times I've been injured with a sprained ankle, and it's like, yeah, I can walk it off, but I'm not gonna go sprinting in the next 3 days. I'm just saying there was a lot of coincidences surrounding a lot of the things, and if you need to win a game or lose a game, the refs can do it for you. And if you don't want the refs to do it for you, you want it to look like a clean game, you just throw it. You bet against yourself, make a cool couple million. Of course, you'd have to smash your phone because you don't want people to know you're illegally gambling against yourself. Like, why else would he shatter his phone every 3 months? If he's supposedly in a happy relationship, why would you break your phone? And they said, "Oh, you mean like he was clumsy with it?" And this came out in the testimony of the Deflategate scandal. They said, "Oh, you mean he was like clumsy with it?" And he says, "No, no, no, no." They said he purposely broke his phone, like he was smashing it on purpose, and no one could figure out why. They're like, "Well, that makes no sense." Now you know. So get rid of the paper trail, because you can't have that. And people say, "Well, if all the professional sports are rigged, then like what about tennis?" Yeah, a lot of the Olympics are rigged too. You have people that go out there, they'll take a dive on purpose. Of course, you have people say, "Why on earth would they take a dive on purpose?" Because they don't want people to know that they're betting against themselves. They don't want people to know that everything is run by illegal gambling, backroom deals. They don't want that found out. Now, again, like I said, it's all conjecture. It's just my own little theory, so take it for a grain of salt. But really look into it. Even if it is just conjecture. Because if you look into it and I turn out to be right, then what's I tell you? But if it turns out to be wrong, all right, I was just goofing, you know? See what I mean? People say, "Wow, you're just doing that now to cover yourself up," and it's like, no, I stand by it. I stand by my statement. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. I really don't. I may be though. Hard telling. However, I'm gonna go and do. I'm gonna make it all the way to the Durance of Hate too. Mostly because I don't want to have to go past Travancore again. Okay, those guys hit a little hard. I think it's because they hit me so hard and then they explode. And then when they explode, it does damage to me. I think that's it. So I think it's double dipping on the damage there. That's what I think. I'm really excited over the Black Ops 6, the new season, for like a completely different reason. I don't know. I always like the new season because then, out with it comes new guns, new maps. There's not any, as far as I know, there's not any long range maps. They're bringing back gun game, which gun game is kind of fun. Don't get me wrong. Um, I think there needs to be team gun game. That's what I think. Team gun game, where everybody on your team, it doesn't have to be very many people. It could just be three. It could be 3-on-3, like 3v3v3v3 or something like that. And then you do team gun game. Each person on your team has to get a kill with that gun before you advance. And then you advance to the next gun, and they have to get three. Each of you have to get a kill with that. I think that would be kind of cool because there's a lot of people in gun game that will just blaze through it, and they're amazing at it. And then you have people like me who are not so good at it. I love playing it, but I'm not good at it. That was painful. That was very painful, as a matter of fact. There's an Ith rune. Where's this waypoint? I would say let me go down to Durance of Fate level 3, but nah. I just want to find the waypoint. There's the Durance of Hate level 3. You know what? I should probably just end Act 3 right now. As soon as I can find the waypoint. Is this it? There's the waypoint. I'm not going to end the act right now. I'm going to wait. But that'll do it for this video. Now, like I said, everything I said was just theory, so take it for what it is. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I did. And I am going to do Path of Exile. I got to thinking about it more and more while I was playing here. And I'll do that. I'll play some Path. Maybe next time. But anyway, I hope everybody has a fantastic evening, a wonderful tomorrow, and as always, have a good one. Remember, do your own research.